We are Rogue Media Sports.
Oh, does that mean I have to talk now? Fine. It's Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network, Cole Brennan Memorial Studio on this Friday. I'm going to put the headphones on. I think it sounds really good when I have the headphones on. I look stupid, but I look stupid anyway. Oh, but it sounds really ASMR-ish. God, I have a big head. When I've got the headphones on, listening to how great this microphone sounds. Zach Burke running the show for us, keeping us on the air. I guess I'm Cam Stewart. We're going a lot of different directions today. It is truly like a free-for-all Friday here. Whoa, wacky free-for-all Friday on your favorite sports talk. One of these days, I'm just going to do like a full shock jock, like wacky radio. Zach, you're going to love that.
Yeah.
You're a shock jock radio guy.
For sure. I was going to say, is that the thing that
Not that I'm super edgy anyway.
No, but like, well, I'm not really into, but I wanted to say, like, is that something that everybody who works in radio at least has an impression of like that wacky FM
Sure.
DJ? Because
most of them just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you work with people who are like that.
I want sound effects. I want like an open, an open with it. Weenie and the butt.
I thought you're
wacky.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want the works one of these days.
Yeah, no, I'd have to add like different sound effects to this.
Maybe my last one in studio will do that.
We can just have nothing but just
But just like full on, like I wear a weird hat, some big sunglasses.
Do I do it the same thing where it's
bits?
Like funny sound effect, and then I accidentally hit the speech from Philadelphia?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Is that from Family Guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And he like can't get it off, so just play like they just sit there the whole time while it plays. Yeah.
That is such a good. I gotta get a clip from that. Yes, we will have to do that. And then I want like a full, I want bits. I want second date update. I want the War of the Roses thing. I want people. I want you and Mike as like on phone calls, pretending to be real people. No one ever interrupts each other. You always answer on the first ring. Yep. All that shit.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm down for that. That's my sweet spot, man.
I think Mike would love to put some of those things together.
Yes.
He'd be like, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything voice acting.
Oh yeah.
Like he would be all over that.
Hello, first time, long time.
The problem is for some of these we might need a woman.
Well, I'm sure we can find people to.
They're not usually allowed back here in the sports studio, I guess.
According to who?
They're just never back here.
Well,
never back here.
That's not true. Sometimes
it's an intimidating male space. I get it.
People come through on tours all the time, and they at least get shown back here, and then
it's the Cowboys practice or something.
Sometimes
they are. Sometimes they are brought back here during the show.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, can we just wait a little bit?
Yeah.
Commercial break. See the studio.
Maybe
it's a great studio.
They're not back here though, is because they have to wait and they don't want to wait.
Maybe, but sometimes they come out during a non-commercial break while I'm on the air, live on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts. My sister just asked for my address. It's always an interesting text to get. Anyway, I guess we'll start with the Patriots here. Although I got to admit to you, Zach, I really don't have a ton of interest in this game this weekend. I do as someone who has watched every snap of Patriots football, but for one game in the last 18 years, but not in terms of like a storyline of like, hey, what to look for, because we know what to look for. Like Drake May's really good. The rest of his team isn't. Is something going to give? And he'll actually get over the hump and win a game like he did 2 weeks ago against the Bears. And, that's all it is right now. We know Drake May is going to be good. How many drops are his receivers going to have? How poorly is the defense going to play? Are they going to be able to stop the run this week? What are the coaching mistakes going to be? Is Christian Gonzalez actually going to be on a good wide receiver because he's one of the best corners in football? Or are we just going to put him on the boundary while Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua just rip us to shreds? I guess in this case, it would be Jalen Oh, we are so back. We are so back. So in terms of this Patriots game this week, I
got logged out now.
does that affect me that you got logged out? Or we're still good? Still good. We're figuring this out. From a Patriots standpoint of this week, there's not much in this game that really gives me juice. In fact, I had more juice than the last time these two teams met back in Foxborough because it was the absolute toilet bowl. This Patriots Dolphins, it was Snoop Huntley versus Jacoby Brissett. And the Patriots actually should have won that game. They kind of got jobbed at the end of it with that stupid rule about the toe tap, but only in certain parts of the end zone. It was a whole thing, but it was just absolute Special Olympics football. I think it'll be a little bit better this week. The Dolphins have Tua back. They've won 4 games. It's going to be Tua versus Drake May. But again, in terms of like storylines of this one, we already know what's going to happen. Like Drake May is going to play well. Are his receivers going to catch the ball? Is the defense going to hold up against the run? How many coaching mistakes are the Patriots going to make, and is it going to kill them? Like that's where we're at for this game in particular. Now, there are some things that are bouncing around this week that have caught my interest because I watched the Manning cast. I'm starting to watch the Manning cast more regularly. I've watched it the last 2 weeks with Belichick on there, and I'm honestly I'm as big a fan of the Manning cast as I have been ever. And like Eli's still Peyton's funny, a little bit too much Bitsville, but I actually, being a football nerd, just love having Belichick on there. Is he entertaining? Is he funny? Like, no, not traditionally entertaining, but he will talk a ton of football and like break it down in the game. So I'm watching the other night. It's Cowboys and Texans. And the Cowboys have no run game, like at all. One of the worst running teams in the league. And they have a 2nd and 8 or so. And they're looking at the formation, and Peyton says, run the ball here. Look at that, whatever, 2 high safety or whatever it is. Run the ball here. And Rico Dowdle runs for about a yard. And Belichick says, screw that. Don't run the ball on 2nd and 1. That's it. Short passes. The screen is your run game. And he says, with this offense, the screen is your run game. And what he meant by that was when your run game sucks and you don't value the position of the running back, short passes are your run game. And I love that because that's what Belichick did for years with the Patriots. For years. You'd have some pro back out there, but never anything special at running back. And he just totally changed the idea in his time with the Patriots of the run sets up the pass, because he made it the short pass sets up the pass. It does the same thing to the defense. You can do jet sweeps. You can do screen passes. You could even do shallow crosses and you get the same thing. It's still going to soften up the defense and change how they're attacking you. So it's like stuff like that I'm like, yes, man, yes. And how are more coaches not doing this? Run on 2nd and 1. Other than that, don't do it in this kind of offense. And by that, it means a team that struggles to run the ball and that is down most of the time, and they were down in that game. So I love having that stuff on there. Now, he's not necessarily entertaining or funny, nor terribly critical, because he wants to coach again. And of course, the rumors have been flying around that that team that was playing on Monday night at home, the Cowboys, could be the team that he's coaching next year. I happen to disagree, but I don't think it's totally out of the question. Everyone's talking about how no way he's going to work with Jerry, and Jerry's not going to work with him. And Jerry's not going to give him the keys. He's not going to make him the GM because Jerry's the GM. And he's already done the Bill Parcells thing, which is very similar, and it didn't work out. So I get that part of it. And that's still the overwhelming part of it for me. But there's also that part that says Jerry's in his 80s now, and they're about to go into a rebuild. They still have some talent there. They have some talent at the most important positions that we see in the NFL now, and that's quarterback, wide receiver, pass rusher. And they are a team that won 12 games last year. They're going to bottom out now. They're going to win like 4 or 5 this year. But there's enough talent there that you can work with it. And the uncertainty of other two teams outside of Philadelphia in that division. Jaden Daniels could be a flash in the pan, and you're stuck with a Dan Quinn Commanders team, and the Giants are the Giants. So I say that to say there's probably talent there that the right coach can get them into the postseason even as soon as next year. And Jerry's got to look at that and say, how many shots am I going to have at this? How many more bites at the apple am I going to have before this is a complete rebuild? Because there's some organizations that would do complete rebuild right now with what the Cowboys got. So if I'm Jerry, I'm seriously considering we've got the best coach in the history of the NFL out there. Let's just give it a shot. Let's just give it a go. I've tried the Jason Garrett and the Mike McCarthy crap. Let's go with an actual guy who's won a ton of Super Bowls and a ton of games in this league. The time that he got full control, he made it the greatest dynasty ever. And if I'm Jerry, I'm not even looking at the Brady part of it, because that's a different argument. If I'm Jerry, I'm like, just give this a go. And if it doesn't work, I say, hey, I gave the keys to the greatest coach in the history of the league. What more do you want me to do? I gave up my GM position. That's what you wanted me to do. I gave it to the guy who built the best dynasty ever. What else do you want me to do? So that part of it, I think, is still there. And it would take a massive change of course for Jerry. But at some point, you've got to consider something like that. But yeah, I think he's more liable to get Jason Witten to coach the team from coaching a high school team, or Deion Sanders from coaching Colorado, than he would Bill Belichick. So that's why I have the Cowboys firmly second on the power rankings of two. Because the number one option is one that Mike Florio brought up earlier this week. Now, I'm not a huge Florio fan, but you've got to admit, Florio's really plugged in, and he's been around this thing for a long time. And he has a suggestion of where Bill Belichick could be coaching next year.
Well, Maria, before the season started, team owner Shad Khan said, this is the best team the Jaguars have ever assembled. Let's prove it by winning now. So here we are, 2-9. Worst loss today in franchise history. Bye week coming up. Doug Peterson was asked after the game about the possibility of being fired. He said, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And it could happen soon. Now, what about the guy that put together the best team ever assembled, General Manager Trent Baalke? I've talked to several people throughout the league, and there's a belief in some circles he could potentially survive into next year as part of a package deal that would reunite him with someone he worked with back in 1998, 1999 with the New York Jets. That coach is available. He's won a few Super Bowls. His name is Bill Belichick.
His name is Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, I think that makes sense for some of the reasons he listed there and some that he did not. But they talked about the talent that was on this roster this year. Shad Khan has obviously been pretty brash about it, that they have a ton of talent out there. And they sent 4 guys to the Pro Bowl, over the last 2 seasons. One of them is Ross Matisik, the long snapper from Baylor, by the way. But you've got the pieces on defense. You thought they gave up 52 to the Lions last week. You thought you had the pieces on defense. You've got guys like Evan Ingram. You've got a good locked up quarterback, decent locked up quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. And you play in a division that's mostly up for grabs. Houston's obviously the best team in that division, but the other two are, right? Tennessee's not going anywhere anytime soon, and Indianapolis has no clue what it's doing. So there's a path there to the playoffs. The other thing that Mike Florio did not bring up there, but the thing that would attract Belichick, is they will give him the keys. They will give him the control. He will be the GM of that team as well as the head coach, or at least have a huge say in personnel decisions. At least that. President of football ops, whatever you want to call it. Belichick will have control over that team, and he's working with a guy he's worked with before. If you want to maximize the talent that you've got right now, I don't know why you wouldn't be looking at Bill Belichick. If you're looking for a rebuild and developing a quarterback, I'm probably not looking at Bill Belichick, right? Because the last quarterback he developed is the backup on your roster right now in Jacksonville, and he's ass. So I'm not doing that. But if I'm looking at a team that is ready to go, then I'm taking a real hard look at Bill Belichick. And another team that should be looking at him is the Chicago Bears. Now, Cam, you just said if you want to develop a quarterback, why would you go with Bill Belichick? Well, yeah, but you bring in an OC, a Josh McDaniels type who has developed young quarterbacks. You bring him in, and he's working with Caleb Williams, and Belichick is focusing on everything else for a roster that is ready to win now. Then I think that's a hell of a situation for him to go to in a good way. Jacksonville and Chicago. These were two teams coming into the season that were not seen as Super Bowl contenders, but were certainly looking at win now scenarios with the roster that they had and a team that had playoff ambitions. So if you've got that, you've got the pieces, you've got the guys who are ready to win, specifically in the case of Chicago, all those veterans they brought in who are ready to win. Who else would you rather have than someone who is going to completely change your culture in the right direction, win now mentality, hold everyone accountable, and get your team ready to play every week and out-scheme the other teams? I don't know why you wouldn't look at Bill Belichick, to be honest with you. The other team that could use a guy like Bill Belichick is the Jets, but I don't know if that's happening anytime soon. Although I didn't rule it out earlier this year. I didn't. One other thing I want to bring up about the Patriots, not Belichick, but the current regime, and maybe how far we've fallen since Bill Belichick left, is what Alex Van Pelt said just yesterday, actually, talking about Marcus Jones. So one sec on that. Marcus Jones got a couple of snaps on offense last week. Not to the surprise of Patriots fans, but apparently to the surprise of Patriots coaching staffers. Apparently, it surprised their OC, Alex Van Pelt, that he can play offense, because we have seen Marcus Jones run some gadget plays the last few years. We've seen him run touchdown plays on offense. He's a hell of a punt returner, one of the best in the league. He's a good enough corner to stay on the field, and he was lethal in those offensive packages. And yet, Alex Van Pelt didn't know that he plays offense. We're going to play this clip for you. There are some things on the screen. That was the only video I could find, so I couldn't get rid of them. But apparently, Alex Van Pelt did not know that Marcus Jones could be utilized that way.
Because he called and asked. That's seriously, he did. I got a text from Marcus Jones, and I'm going back in my mind like, well, Marcus would just come and talk to me in the building, I would think. So I was Googling Marcus Jones's, and there was a guy that came through Green Bay for a cup of coffee. I'm like, why would he be texting me? And then one of our coaches came and said, Marcus is trying to get a hold of you. So watched 19 plays of his that he's done here as an offensive player. He obviously brings a lot of juice, tremendous ball carrier, speed, his ability to see the field. So, try to find some plays just to get our guys in the best position to make plays, and felt like he would give us a little spark there. We'll see how it goes moving forward.
Two quick things on that. When did he text you? And then what did you do next once you realized it was Marcus?
I grabbed him at practice. Yeah, he texted me late in the week before, and it was too late to get anything into that game plan. So I grabbed him late in that week and said we'd have some stuff up for you next week. But I always want guys that are self-starters and want to be a part of it. So I was really appreciative for him to, offer his duties up to us on the offensive side.
November, the offensive coordinator finds out that one of his defensive players can play offense and has played offense for this team. How long has Alex Van Pelt been here? 9 months? And he just found out who Marcus Jones was? Like, I know you're an offensive coordinator. You're not working on the defensive side, but he plays almost every down on defense, and he returns punts for you. And you didn't even know who he was? You had to Google who Marcus Jones was? What the hell is that? Like, what happened to this organization? You go from a guy before in Bill Belichick who is known like every player that's ever played in the league and their stats and what they're able to do, what different packages they can play in. No stone was left unturned. And I get it. It's unfair to compare coaches to Bill Belichick. He's the greatest. But is it too much to ask that you know the players on the team? Like, are we serious with that? Marcus Jones is trying to get a hold of him, and he has to look up who that is? He's scored touchdowns on offense for this team. And like, what? And how does Gerard Mayo, the head coach, at no point in this whole time say, hey, I got this guy Marcus on defense. You know him? Marcus Jones. He went to UH. Pretty good player, good punt returner. He's the one that sets you up at that good field position. Yeah, we've actually run some plays with him on offense the last few years. He scored touchdowns. How does the head coach not get in Alex Van Pelt's ear at some point in training camp? At some point when this offense was the worst in the league and had less explosive plays than anybody in the NFL, how does that head coach not say, hey, why don't we try Marcus Jones on some packages? Because he scored for us in the past. Like now we laugh it up. I just learned who this guy was last week. What a joke. Are you kidding? Like, think about that on surface level. That's incredible. That is incredibly incompetent. Incredible. For as bad as this offense was, especially in the early part of the season, nobody went to Alex Van Pelt and was like, hey, we could try Marcus here. Why don't we try some plays for Marcus? He's run offense for us before. Like, what this program, this franchise is just becoming a joke, like a punchline. This, again, I've said this so many times this year, but this franchise is becoming the same ones we laughed at for years and years and years. And I also say none of it matters if the quarterback is good. And I'm sticking with that. Drake May is good. He is going to give you a chance to rebuild pretty quickly here. But A, I don't trust the GM right now and what they're going to put around him. And B, how can I trust this coaching staff after hearing that? Drake May is going to be good, but are you even going to know what players you can use around him? Are you even going to know your personnel? He didn't know who Marcus Jones was. He thought it was some guy who played for the Packers. Like, what? Did he watch no film on this team over the last few years or even look at who they drafted or anything? And what also bugs me about this is we go back to the Belichick example. Belichick loves stealing ideas from other teams, right? As all good coaches do. Packages and formations and the way they utilize their skill. Like, offensive coordinators should be looking at other offenses throughout the league. And in Cleveland, when he's got to run through all these different quarterbacks, he's not saying, ooh, they have got a speedster guy in New England that is actually a corner. They're using him on offense. We've got a guy like that here. Why don't we utilize something like that? Nope. Doesn't even know who he is. Like, is this not insane? This should be the number one football story in America right now, that the offensive coordinator didn't know this guy actually plays some offense. What team is this? What franchise is this? And who owns this franchise? And why is he, again, not going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame? We'll talk about that next on the Cam Show.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history, but he also
had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe
more relaxed. What were a couple of your biggest takeaways? The first thing you referred to that I've spoken to some personnel people and general managers of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that. Has the general manager changed at all in the draft for you?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
We do have breaking news live on the Cam Show. One of my girlfriend's high school classmates has been fired from his job. Adam Schefter reporting the Giants are releasing Daniel Jones. Oof. I mean, the first comment under it, why? What happened? That's funny. I mean, it's not terribly surprising, I guess. But this is a complete overhaul that's about to happen with the New York Giants, which is why Brian Daboll should be the next OC of the Patriots. And maybe he'll know who Marcus Jones is. Just maybe. We can only hope. We can only hope he knows who the punt returner is on the team. I don't know. Another good comment under it. Got to be the worst ending for a DJ since Avicii. So, Big Cat from Barstool has commented as well. Jerry Jones can do the funniest thing ever and save Thanksgiving Day football. The Giants are in Dallas on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, come on. That would be so funny. And it's probably just as good as what they've got at options right now. Probably just as good as Cooper Rush. Like, why not? Jerry Jones is in the Hall of Fame. And he just got his biggest win of the year last night because it was announced that Robert Kraft will not be a part of the 2025 Pro Football Hall of Fame class. Congrats, Jera. Big win there. That's the only win he's getting this season, it feels like. But once again, Robert Kraft not in the Hall of Fame. I won't spend too much time on this because I did a whole 20-minute rant on this last month. But it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous that Robert Kraft is not in the Hall of Fame and will not be once again this year. Now, are there some weird things that Kraft has done in sort of a Hall of Fame campaign that he's denying? Yes. The Apple documentary, not good. I didn't even finish it. I thought it was a bad look for the Kraft family, really. But I've gone two different ways with this. There are plenty of people who say, why should Robert Kraft be in the Hall of Fame? He's an owner. Okay, but owners are in the Hall of Fame. I think they've got a referee in the Hall of Fame. If you're going to put owners in the Hall of Fame, there are not, 3 or 5 more owners more influential in the history of this league than Robert Kraft. I mean, again, we're talking about saving the sport in one of the biggest markets in the sport and laying the seeds and the groundwork for, again, the greatest dynasty in pro sports. With what they had to accomplish. And you can say, oh, it's all Belichick and it's all Brady. Sure. I mean, those are the guys who they should get the overwhelming share of the credit pie here. But Bob Kraft did go out on a limb to get Bill Belichick. Lest we forget. I know the situation is icy now, and he's trying to throw Belichick under the bus, which I hate. I really hate. But let's not forget, Belichick was kind of third rail at that point. Everyone remembers how it ended in Cleveland, even though that's not his fault. And he ends up basically taking an entry-level job with the Patriots in 96, and they go to the Super Bowl. He's back on Parcells' staff with the Jets. And then he leaves the Jets after 5 seconds as the head coach. And it was toxic. Nobody wanted this guy. And Bob Kraft was just coming off Pete Carroll. And all the guys in his defensive backs, his Lawyer Malloys and his Ty Laws are telling him, go after this guy. This is the guy we need. But again, there was worries about, is he too much of a nerd and not more of a football guy? And is he just a defensive coordinator? And Bob Kraft went out and traded a first-round pick to go and get this guy. Everyone in New England was like, what the hell are we doing here? Pete Carroll took this team to the playoffs. You got rid of him, and you're spending a first-round pick on this failed Cleveland coach? What are you doing? To just go after the Parcells well again, even though we know how that ended with Kraft? And yeah, it worked. It worked big time. He also revolutionized what teams are doing with their stadiums. That's something that he doesn't get a lot of credit for. And there are still teams that are trying to get the taxpayers to pay for their new stadiums, and that still happens. But Kraft privately funded this at Gillette and started building all around it. You go to any new stadium, any stadium that's built in the last 15 years in the NFL, and it's not just a stadium, okay? There are shops, there are restaurants, there are hotels, there are small towns built around these stadiums. I can go 100 miles to the north and find it in Arlington. They're doing a pretty damn good job with that. Kraft was the first one to do that, because when you do that and you privately fund it and it's privately owned, you get all of that game day revenue. You don't have to share it with the rest of the league like you would if it was just a publicly funded, publicly owned stadium. So once again, Bob Kraft on the cutting edge and does have a hand in the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. But he's not a Hall of Famer. Like Jerry Jones can't get his team to a conference championship in the last 30 years. 30 years. We're putting him in the Hall of Fame over Bob Kraft. I just that doesn't sit well with me. If we're going to put owners in the Hall of Fame, which I don't even want anyway, but if we're going to put owners in the Hall of Fame, like Bob Kraft would be in the top 5 that I would put in there. I just think it's a joke that he's not. And this is not good for the Kraft family, because the more this gets prolonged, the Patriots are going to suck here. And it's not going to look good. And the more that he's throwing Belichick under the bus, the worse it looks. So, Bob, maybe stop doing that. Stop with the books and the documentaries and the radio hits and the Breakfast Club. Stop. Because you could George Seifert this thing. George Seifert is the only coach who coached himself out of the Hall of Fame with that horrible Panthers stint. Don't do that with these next few years with the Patriots. Okay? Just sit in the back, sit on your little reclined seat, makes you look taller up in the booth, sit with Bon Jovi and your son and clap along and hope this Drake May thing turns out right. But it is ridiculous that he's not in the Hall of Fame. And all these other owners are. It just doesn't make sense to me, because because he's not the old money. Jerry's the only new money guy that's in there for owners. And that's not relatively new money, right? Like the rest are the Maras and the Rooneys and the DeBartolos. And I mean, Eddie DeBartolo is in there. He's scamming people. He's running Ponzi schemes, man. He's defrauding governments. And they're going to keep Bob Kraft out because he paid a little extra for a hand job? Like, give me a break. Give me a break. Anyway, it is a very special anniversary here on the Cam Show. I remember where I was. It was Thanksgiving night. I like when the Patriots play on Thanksgiving. It doesn't happen a lot. But it was on this day, November 22nd. Once an infamous day in New England history, for obvious reasons, but became a beacon of a day in the year 2012. Patriots, Jets, Thanksgiving night, and it was a demolition from the word go. The Patriots win it 49-19. That really signals the beginning of the end of the Rex Ryan era. Like, this play that we're about to show you is really the end for the Jets, because they had good teams, lest we forget. 2009, right? Or 2010 and 2011. If I'm not mistaken on that. They go to the AFC Championship both of those years. It would be January of 2010 and January of 2011. No, 2011 and 2012. I think I'm right in that. Am I wrong, Zach? Can you please help me? I'm dying out here. I should know these things. I'm autistic. The Jets go to back-to-back AFC Championship games, and shortly thereafter, it falls apart. This is the year of our Lord 2012 that we're talking about. And this is really the end of the Rex Ryan Jets.
2010 is the last AFC Championship.
January of 2010.
Yes. Because it says reached the
Wait,
AFC
no.
Championship game 4 times, most recently losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2010.
But it's January of 11. But yes, it's the 2010 season.
season.
2010
Yeah,
season.
10,
Yes,
10,
which I
11
was still messing up. Yes, so they lost to the Colts the year before, and then they beat the Patriots in 2010, the 2010 season. And then yes, lost to the Steelers 23-19 or 24-19, something like that.
Yeah, that was on January 23rd of 2011.
What's the score of it?
24-19.
Yeah.
The Colts one that they lost in 2010
was, don't tell me, 29-15.
You're like close. You're just dancing around on both of them. 30-17.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I was way off on that one.
And then it was
that was way off.
99 against the Broncos and then 83 against the Dolphins.
Who could forget? New York Stock Exchange, 83. Anyway, let's stop beating around the bush here. This is one of the greatest highlights in NFL history, and I'd be remiss if we don't bring it up every November 22nd that I have a pulse and can put something on YouTube. Here it is in all its glory, the butt fumble.
In Indianapolis, the offensive coordinator, you got a busted play here, and then Sanchez gets hit. The ball is loose and it's alive, and then going into the end zone is Steve Gregory, who's had an interception, 2 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown.
Or in my life, watch this. Vince Wilfork is going to throw Brandon Moore back into his quarterback. He's going to fumble the football. This is what Reggie White used to do to people. Forklift them and just lift them off the...
Oh, it's never not funny. It's never not funny. Like, if there's one play to sum up the history of the Jets, that is it. I mean, it's so great. Like, they cannot get out of their own way. It is a nice play by Wilfork, but I've watched Chris Collinsworth commentate games for years, decades now. And one complaint I've always had about Chris Collinsworth, which I still have, is everything's great and everyone's great. And the refs always make the right call because it's so hard to be a ref. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we see that all the time. Never says a bad thing about anybody. So in the middle of a play, when Chris Collinsworth's going, oh no, you know it is some deep shit. And that's exactly what that was on the butt fumble. But what people forget is the Patriots scored 3 touchdowns in about 65 seconds in that whole sequence. So the drive before, Brady hits Shane Vereen. I think it was a 75-yard screen pass for a touchdown. Like, nobody even touches Shane Vereen, touchdown machine. And then 2 plays later, the butt fumble happens. And then the Patriots have to kick off to the Jets. And what is often forgotten is this is what happens on the ensuing kickoff.
Good or left.
Right. Here's the kick. About 7 yards in. Joe McKnight. And McKnight will lose the ball again. It goes right into Edelman's hands. And Edelman goes in for a touchdown. And the Jets have turned the ball over 4 times. Devin McCourty created it. Oh, boy.
This is the Keystone Cop.
I love the Jets. Long live the Jets. I mean, what is that? What is that saying of, like, what would God have to do if there was no devil? It's like, even as bad as the Patriots are, like, I need the Jets in my life because of shit like this. It's the Keystone Cops. It's the Bad News Bears. We should have put the Benihana music on it behind it.
There's one thing that I just love. I'm reminded of, I think, Chris Long was talking about how easy it is to lip read Will Levis, like, on the sidelines because of how he is. Just seeing Rex Ryan there after that fumble, and you just, like, you kind of feel for him in a way because it's like, what is he supposed to do? Like, sure, bad play calls. You make the wrong, we should have ran, set a pass. We shouldn't have made, you know. But on that, you can't do anything. So just reading his lips and seeing him just like, it makes it kind of even funnier in a way. Like the Schadenfreude.
So good, man.
It keeps getting worse.
And, like, even just the way it happens, like the ball pops out. Edelman gets it because he's doing special teams coverage back then. And he's cut like the ball out in front of him. Like, yeah, it looks like that great high school team that's got a bunch of D1 prospects and they play the sad sacks in the from the the seminary on homecoming, and it's 56-0 at halftime.
Or usually
like,
your first round playoff matchups.
Yes. Like I remember having this thought during that game, and I have it every time I watch the replays of those things. Like that should not be an NFL game. Like the Jets shouldn't be an NFL team. That shouldn't be happening in the NFL. Like the quality of it is so good, even better than the best quality of college football. Like that should not be happening.
No, agreed.
It's so good. They're literally like Al and Chris aren't even done laughing about the play before. And they're like, oh, okay, here's the kick. Oh my God. Here it comes again. Oh, I love the Jets. I need them in my life. And why I'm so passionate about that now is because they're doing the same shit right now. And it's so good. Long live the Jets. Long live the butt fumble and the Joe McKnight fumble and the Steve Gregory pick six that he had to play before, or a couple plays, a couple drives before. My God, it's too good. That was one of my favorite Patriots games of the dynasty. Just an absolute laugher. Like, why is this other team even in the league? And it was on their turf on Thanksgiving night with America watching. It was a perfect storm of crap. That's what the Jets illustrated history should be called. A perfect storm of crap. Speaking of crap, let's tell you about the crap we watched on TV this week. That's coming up next on the Cam Show.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy. No. I'm happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. And you know we always family, no matter where I'm at.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but you know, he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
But look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
All right. We're almost getting you out of town on a Friday, but we got to take you into the weekend with what is going to be probably a semi-regular thing. And that is the worst thing we watched this week. Zach, we watch a lot of crap. On purpose, mostly.
Yeah.
But sometimes by mistake. My two are by mistake. But I want to ask what the worst thing you watched this week was.
Mine was on purpose.
Love that for you.
It was an episode of...
This does not include, by the way, the 5 or 6 shitty movie reviews I watch every day.
Yeah,
it's not included.
Yeah, no.
Which I know
this
is
was
not yours. So
This was, we were at home. The wife was like, hey, I did the whole breakdown, and there's a reason why, but somehow Nash Bridges, the old TV show from the mid 90s to early 2000s, starring Don Johnson and Cheech Marin as cops in the San Francisco Bay, popped up, and she goes, hey, I remember watching that like as a kid with like my parents or grandparents, a bit of nostalgia. Why don't we watch an episode? I said, sure. And it was awful. It was like one of those, like we talked about it.
Really? Who could have seen that?
I know,
coming?
but it's like how you would talk about when you went down your Walker Texas Ranger path.
Oh, I gotta get back on that. By the
Just
way.
one of those things where it was just like so bad at times.
What do you know? What Nash Bridges was on?
Yeah, well, reruns were. I think CBS. I think it was a CBS show.
Okay, because I was thinking that with Walker Texas Ranger, I kept thinking like this was like a serious network drama.
Yeah,
it wasn't the top show on the network, but like it wasn't a soap opera.
Yeah, no, I think
it was on at night.
They ran reruns, and this was a prime time.
I can look it up.
Show.
You can talk. I can
but I know reruns ran on USA, but
Classic.
Essentially
they must. Okay, that's a CBS property.
I think so. I think it's Viacom and all that. Yeah.
Because
So
I definitely
essentially, what happens is, and I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Good old Don Johnson and Cheech are called to a hotel where they see that one of the guests has fallen from the hotel balcony, but they can find no prints or anything. Everything looks, taken care of and put in its place. So what happened here? Finds out that the woman was apparently having an affair there with another married coworker. They were both married, but they were having an affair at this hotel, and she fell while they were having sex on the balcony. But
while they were having sex
on the balcony, but
that's difficult.
So
I'm trying to think of what position that would have to be.
I mean, they tell you essentially, if you would like me to. She is, so this is not something I thought we would get into.
I'm curious as to how you fall off a balcony.
No, I get it. So it's like open.
That's a good time.
It's open. It's like maybe waist high, and I'm assuming it's
Okay,
a point
see,
where
that's-
she's bent over,
okay.
hands on the edge of the balcony.
See, I'm not
and he's
taking
behind her.
I'm not taking into account that a balcony could be waist high because
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
It's it's an open balcony. That they
Okay,
work out to.
okay, that makes sense.
But they're confused because everything is wiped down and all clean and taken care of. And they think at first maybe her and her husband, and it's just an accident, and he was afraid to report it, kind of thing. But then they get a tip from a voyeur who lives in a house nearby who is watching these people have sex in these hotel rooms.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So he can tell them, like, no, it wasn't her husband there. It was a different guy. And that's how they figure out, oh, it's the guy she's having the affair with.
And also, don't let him lie on how long it is. I saw it.
I saw it. Do you want to take a guess of who the voyeur was watching people have sex?
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Well, I mean, he has facial hair, but no, it's somebody who would know a thing or two about it. I don't know. Ron Jeremy.
No.
With a guest role.
No.
Yes. Of the voyeur. So
they're like, we got to get Ron Jeremy in here. So we've got to find a perverted character.
Exactly.
We have to.
But here's the thing, too, is
Oh
like
my
how many
God.
people, I mean, I'm sure people recognize them, but they didn't want to admit it. But just think of the people who didn't know him and just thought, oh, he's some bit actor who don't realize that, oh, yeah, we got Ron Jeremy to star in
Some
it.
good, clean souls didn't know who that was.
So after this, we come to find out that the wife had found out that her husband was having an affair with the woman who died. She told him she was going to leave, but still said, you just take care of her instead. And he admits this plan of where it was her idea for while they were having sex and hooking up for him to push her off the balcony. She caused him to kill her. She's the reason he killed her. I don't get this. She forced him to kill her, to kill the woman.
Sure, we've all been there.
Right? They paint the wife out to be this horrible character. And like, you're supposed to feel for this guy, even though the whole time I'm thinking like, yeah, she said you should push her, but you're the one who still pushed her. You're the one sobbing. And the wife's just like, no comment, no comment. Like the wife thinks she's going to get off with this.
She sure does.
We end the episode of the main story because I'll sum up the side story in like a couple sentences, is where the husband of the dead woman breaks into the police station to shoot the man who killed his wife, only for him to be pushed aside as he shoots and for him to shoot the killer's wife. So now, in a turn of justice,
Wow.
they have both killed each other's wives.
Wow. That's good
It was
old-fashioned American
bad.
justice, man.
Side story was one of the cops was dating a hooker and was trying to get her free from her pimp, and he stole like Cheech Marin's wife's watch to pay for it off and stuff, and he tried to unalive himself, but it was a whole thing about Cheech Marin taking care of the scumbag detective partner who was trying to save his hooker girlfriend, which, by the way, the whole episode is him trying to get her out of this pimp's control, only for at the end him to leave her. It was like, that was a lot of stuff to go through, but there you go.
That show ran for 122 episodes,
6 seasons.
I think The Sopranos ran for 86. That ran for 122 episodes
From 1996 to 2001.
Wow. That's pretty much the extent of my parents' marriage, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, almost on the dot. What's the first episode here? March of 96. They got married in September 96 and divorced in May of 2001, which is when the show ended. That's nice.
So your parents' marriage lasted about as long as Nash Bridges.
Yeah. And probably just as good. I don't know.
I don't know. After what I watched, I'd like to think there's a little bit better.
So I'm going to use 2 clips here. One of them is from an interview. Now, I should note that this could be anything that you watch during the week. So Wicked is coming out, and you and Mason have described to me what Wicked actually is. I've heard of it. I knew it was on Broadway forever, but it's not for me. But the stars of this, now it's Ariana Grande and
Cynthia Erivo, I think is her last name.
Yeah, I actually don't know, so I shouldn't say with any certainty. So they do an
Cynthia
interview.
Erivo, I think is how you pronounce it.
They do an interview with someone who is in queer media. And they just say a bunch of just stuff. I can't describe it. Let's just do it.
This week, people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that.
I didn't know that was happening.
I've seen it, yeah.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was happening.
I've seen it on a couple posts. I don't know how widespread, but, I am in queer media, so that's my,
I get what is happening.
You do?
Well, okay.
Because I have no clue. Apparently, it's not edited. I thought it was edited.
No, to me, it shows that obviously, like, people are finding some sort of like message that they're relating to in her song.
Well, that is what songs are for.
Yeah, and I think that the interviewer was
taking
just,
space. What is it? Creating space, holding space, holding gravity.
It's
like, what was that? What did I just watch, Zach? Please help me.
So I think the interviewer was just trying to explain that, a lot of people are finding a message and relating to that song. And I don't know if she didn't know how to come back to it, or she was honestly just like blown away by it, of just like, that's awesome. That's what I wanted people to get from it, which is a very nice moment. It's just the silence and the staring and just add a little to the awkwardness of it.
So she's a big time actress. I think she's acting there. I think she's like, clearly this is something important to this interviewer, but I have no idea what's happening. So I'll just be like, that's really great. That's what I was hoping for.
Maybe that could be it too.
And like Ariana Grande's like holding her hand as if like you see it, she like grabs it there as if she's just been told her mother's dead or something.
Well,
what the hell was that?
I don't know. I think maybe that it's just her.
We need to get back to, and this is not any one interview or anything. This is society as a whole. This is, the young generation, the slightly older generation. This is social media and everything. We need to get back to like saying words. We need to get back to saying sentences and having sentence structure and saying what we mean. I think that's for the whole, which is actually a great transition to my other video, which is where they're saying exactly what they mean. This is from, I think it's called The Landman, and it's Billy Bob Thornton out in West Texas, where he was of Friday Night Lights fame, like literally back in that same stadium in Odessa, a place I used to live. And I mean, we need to get better at talking in sentences. We need to get better at writing real dialogue, because I have not seen this show, but I don't know what this scene came out of.
Are you two having sex?
Teddy.
Well, I had to ask.
Of course.
And that's what I get for asking. Are you being careful?
Yeah, we have a rule and we stick to it.
I'm gonna regret asking you this, but what is this rule?
As long as he never comes in me, he can come anywhere on me.
I'm gonna look at a Dr. Pepper. You want anything?
No.
Like this Billy Bob, man, that was like every shitty movie I've ever watched right there. Are you two having sex?
Is that a father and daughter?
I guess at Ratliff Stadium, where I've covered many a game and where Billy Bob Thornton has one of his greatest acting jobs.
I love
what the hell was that?
I think my favorite part of all of it is just he's just so dumbfounded. Then he's just like, I'm gonna go get a Dr. Pepper. Want anything? He refuses, just like leaves it where it's at. Just like,
I do want to check the show out because I've lived there, and like I noticed this when I moved to Texas. You know, you look back at all the media around Texas, and it's like, boy, they missed a lot of this. You know what I mean? Like young Sheldon, for example, they're supposed to be in, like, I think he says he's from Corpus, and yet they're like, "Whoa, I gotta play some high school football," and it's like, holy shit, this is so awful. Or like when Quinn Ewers had the mullet and he looked kind of gangly, kind of scraggly, and they were like, "Oh, that's a good down home Texas kid." And I'm like, nope, he's from Southlake, Texas, which is like the richest mega suburb in the state. So that's not exactly up to snub. So I want to know that about Odessa as well, because I have a feeling I know what they're going to do. It's going to be a lot like that. They're all going to be cowboys who work on the oil rigs and darn tootin', and we do things a little differently around here. Try that in a small town. I think there's going to be a lot of that. So I do want to figure that out.
All right, you'll have to let me know because I'm not going to watch it.
It's going to be painstaking, man.
If it's all like that, yeah, maybe.
Like I've seen that go around Twitter a lot, and I think KFC from Barstool had a good like quote on it. It was like, when you stretch these same writers and actors across like 7 different shows at the same time, you're just gonna get some stuff like this.
Oh yeah.
Because like what purpose is that going to serve in the plot?
Well, and nothing, because it just ends
or
right
to
there
character
too.
development.
Nothing.
Like it's like a shock value line.
Yeah.
Bet you didn't think we'd talk about coming.
And now we won't talk about it again.
I mean, I'd take that role with her. That is an attractive young lady. I don't know. That was bizarre. Those are the worst things I've watched this week. Usually it's commercials, but those are the worst things I've watched this week.
I gotcha.
Zach, you got any big weekend plans?
No.
You're going to watch The Landman on Paramount Plus.
Is that where it's at?
I think so, yeah. I've seen ads for it when I watch The Twilight Zone.
I'm going to clear out my weekend.
Please do. Please do. And clear out all the bad television you thought you knew, because you're going to get it with The Landman and hopefully not Wicked. I mean, I'm not going to go see it, but I hope it's not like that. I assume it's going to be better. People are way into it. So anyway, we will be back on Monday with short week next week with the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll be breaking down the Patriots Toilet Bowl Part 2 against Miami. This time it's slightly better. We will see you at high noon Eastern time on Monday, 11 a.m. Central time, live on YouTube like we are every weekday, and then wherever you get your podcast. So be sure to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell to get notified every time we are dropping a video Monday on The Cam Show. We will see you then.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to.
The only thing we have. That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the 2 most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Coming up on the Pete Souza Show, Rogue Media and ESPN's own King McClure talks with us about the NBA draft.
Team is
Are you
banged up
getting
a bit.
undressed while we're doing this?
No.
What is happening?
And it's partially because the team has like pretty kind
Wrong
of big problems.
podcast, Nick. Wrong podcast. When you're a golfer, what is the point of no return? He was the best play-by-play announcer around, in my opinion, and he made me want to continue to watch.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We are Rogue Media Sports.